Greetings, friends and Robloxians. Thanks for watching a Little Kingdom production. I am here in Islands today. Right now, I'm in the cave of my noob island. I still haven't really built anything here that I'm planning to build, but I wanted to talk today about oil rigs, difficult subject, how to use them, some of the benefits and difficulties. Now, I've got a couple of oil operations on some alt islands, so I'm going to take a moment to show you guys that. I'm now on my alt Ichabod's Island, and this is where I've got the gigantic industrial flower farm. Colorful flowers, 100% no mundane, except for these ones down here. I have a lot of mundane chrysanthemums. They're all being auto-picked using auto flower pickers. This is kind of a crazy setup. I've got one oil deposit here, and I've got another oil deposit way over there. Each one is going into two refineries making petroleum. The petroleum then goes out, and each one is feeding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on one side. It's kind of hard to follow in such a tight area. So this one oil line here splits into two and goes around there to that refinery, and the pipes then go under. So I've got then storage tanks, because when I'm not actively using the flower farm, I'll just go ahead and break those transfer cases, the junction boxes, right where, basically where it comes out of the tank, and let the tanks fill up. So now the tanks are going to continue to fill up, because this setup here, these auto pickers will actually pull fuel a little faster than the two oil deposits will put it out. I am producing tons and tons of flowers. I don't think I've picked these up for a while. So yeah, I get lots of fertiles too. This only gave me one white fertile daisy out of about 300 regular ones. Here I've got 3 black fertiles out of 253 regular ones. Kind of debating with people about the chances. It does seem to be random. It kind of averages out to be a little bit less than 1% to get a fertile flower. But they pile up. The longer you do this, the more fertile flowers you're going to get. Here I am on my Alts Island, Rosemary Block, and we have a little bit of industrial equipment going on here. We've got copper being produced here, but the copper is being fed by this petroleum petrifier. The same petroleum petrifier is feeding this smelter down here. So instead of being fed coal, they're being fed petrified petroleum, and it's actually being split off this one refinery, going to two machines, petrifying the petroleum into these nuggets. So that's what it looks like. And I come over here and collect all that on occasion, and that's why I have 164,000. That's how I like to use it. This oil deposit down here is from the original oil update. This oil deposit never gets depleted. So anybody who's getting oil nowadays needs to buy it from Doug, the oil baron. So let's go meet Doug. Here we are in the hub, and if we go right behind the hub portal, directly behind it, we can see that oil rig way off in the distance there. That is where the oil baron is. That's where we're going to purchase our oil deeds. Now, oil deed is 500,000 coins. And I've already purchased one. You can only buy it every 4 hours. So in another 17 minutes, I'll be able to buy another. But you can sell oil barrels for 500 coins, and you can sell petroleum barrels for 1,000 coins. That oil resource, I'm going to go spawn a new one on my island. So let's head home. According to Wiki, it's going to provide 5,000 units of oil. And once that's completed, it's depleted. It's done, disappears. So keep that in mind with any oil industrial builds you're doing. You may need to reroute pipes because we're never sure where this oil deposit is going to spawn at. In order to spawn it, you need to have a tier 4 bench, and I've got that down in my cave here. So you need to have a tier 4 workbench on your island, and then you also need to have the deed. So I'm not sure where it's going to pop up. We'll just kind of keep our eye out that way. I'll get the deed in hand. Just using the deed. Okay, so there it is. It just popped up over here. So I'm going to build out to it, and we'll set up a little bit of examples. I like to clear away the grass. It's not necessary, but it's just the way I like to do it. And then I'll put a little stone platform all around it. Oil rig stuff does take up quite a bit of space. Got our oil deposit here, and we got a little bubbly little eminence coming off of it. I'm not really sure what I'm going to build or how I'm going to place it. This is not going to be permanent, so I'm not going to try to make it perfect. Just as an example, the first thing you need is a pump, and that's going to go with the red hydrant part of the pump directly on the oil deposit. You can face it any direction you want. I think I'll face it this way. Let's take another look at the bench. All the different things we can make. On the tier 4 workbench, scrolling down, we find all the oil stuff. A lot of the oil equipment takes red bronze, so if you're not already making red bronze, that'll be what you need to do first, unless you've got millions and billions of coins elsewhere and you can just buy this stuff. So in order to get that pump jack, you're going to need red bronze, pipes, and steel. And then to make an oil refinery, and that's to make petroleum, you need red bronze and steel. You don't really need a petroleum tank. I do like to use them on my flower farm. An oil tank, I wouldn't make that. I think it's kind of useless. Fuel barrel extractor, another thing that I probably wouldn't make because I'm leaning towards actually using the fuel and not putting it in barrels. Same with the barrel filler. If you wanted to fill barrels, we'll talk about that in a moment, but you could and then sell them back to Doug, oil baron. As we saw, he buys those things. Petroleum petrifier, I'd definitely make one of those. Red bronze steel plates and steel rods, so it takes a lot of expensive resources. The tier 2 crate packer. Now, this does not actually take petroleum. It's got a petroleum inlet, but it doesn't need it. Another thing to mention is the oil refinery. It has an input for coal. It doesn't need it. The tier 2 crate packer and the oil refinery look like they need to be powered, but they don't. You do not need coal or petroleum into either of these to make them go. A tree fruit shaker, I've already set one of those up and we'll take a look at that. The sapling automatic planter, if you want to set up an auto lumber yard, tree farm, wood farm, this is what you would use, along with probably an industrial saw, which is the industrial lumber mill. So the industrial lumber mill picks the tree, saws it, and sends both the wood and the sapling onto the conveyor belt. And I've shown that industrial lumber mill in one of my tree farm videos. The industrial merchant teleseller does not need petroleum. The industrial flower picker does. Let me just go ahead and show you some basic setups. So we need pipes and pipe junction boxes. I like to use pipe junctions to turn corners, or rather than trying to get pipes to bend. Pipes are kind of difficult. to maneuver. They kind of do their own thing. You can turn them, but then they end up just going every direction. Eventually you play with it enough, you can get them to go where you want, but you can just easily put this junction box out, which has two outputs. So it can be used as a splitter, and that's its primary purpose. It has an input and two output, and the other side is nothing. We can use that to split our oil. You know when a pipe is leading to something when it fills up, either with the black or the yellow. Okay, here's the refinery. The input is on the left and the output is on the right. So I'm going to turn this so that my input is now going to the output of this junction box. And I believe that it'll work directly up against the junction box, but sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes you need to have a separating pipe there. So now this isn't going to fill up with anything. It's not actually pushing any oil anywhere yet because this is not powered. I can go ahead and power it just by putting in some petroleum. After a few moments, this is going to start pushing out the oil. But we need to keep that a constant, steady flow. And I'll do that with a conveyor and a coal totem. Eventually the coal totem is going to back that up. And we're going to have hundreds of coal just sitting on this conveyor. It starts to lag out the island after a while. That's been my experience. Alternatively, you could use a timed output chest to power any equipment really that takes coal or petrified petroleum. But for now, we'll just use this coal totem, and it will perpetually power the pump, which is pushing oil into the refinery. We'll have the refinery pushing petroleum out to the fuel barrel filler. So the fuel barrel filler has its input side there. And we'll put a chest on the other end of it because it's going to be pushing fuel barrels out in that direction. So it's got oil in it. You can tell it's being operated. Smoke is coming out of this thing. It's already filled up with 6 drips. So we've also got this status bar. So once the status bar completely fills up, it's going to give us a barrel. I don't think it's already given us one, no, not yet. So when all 6 of these, kind of speculating, but I think when all 6 are fully solid, then it pushes out a barrel for us. Alternatively, you can just look at that status bar, and it's going kind of slow. So Islands Wiki says that it takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds to create 1 barrel. Okay, I tried to do some math. It takes the pump 5 seconds to make 1 unit of oil. It takes the oil refinery 20 seconds to turn it into petroleum. This needs 6 slots filled up to make a barrel. So that's 20 times 6. So that's 120 seconds. Let's go ahead and time it. Okay, starting the timer. Alright, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. So a little less than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Interesting. Alright, I'm not going to do the math. Too many variables, but I think this could be profitable. If we set up another side of this, see these are neck and neck filling up, but it's as easy as that. It takes a little bit of getting used to. I prefer to use these junction pipes rather than trying to turn corners and bend angles. Let's talk about the advantages of petroleum in barrels rather than oil barrels. If you were trying to use this setup to make a profit, if you sold oil barrels to Doug the oil baron, and I don't know anybody else who would want to buy them. Alright, let's look at the numbers. Oil resource initially costs 500,000 coins. Doug will buy back oil barrels at 500 coins each. An oil resource makes a total of 5,000 units of oil. Each barrel takes 6 units of oil. So you can make a total of 5,000 divided by 6, 833 barrels of oil. If you sold those 833 barrels to Doug for 500 coins each, you would make 416,500 coins. You can already see the problem. 500,000 coins minus 416,500 coins. We're going to lose 83,500 coins if we were to decide to use oil barrels as a source of income. Let's switch it up. We're selling petroleum barrels for 1,000 coins, 833 of them. We're going to make 833,000 coins. That's going to give us a profit of 333,000. Not too shabby, but it takes a while and may or may not be worth it to you. So that is a fuel barrel farm. This is the fruit tree shaker setup. I'm going to show you an alternative way to power this thing. If you have a timed output chest, if you got a lot of coal, set this timed output chest for 1 minute and fill it with coal. Start it off by putting one in there. Every minute, this pump jack is going to be fed a coal, and it's going into a refinery. I've got another petroleum petrifier. It's already made 100. And the fruit tree shaker. So I've got petroleum going, oil going in, petroleum going out, splitting, going here to make petrified petroleum, but going here to power this fruit tree shaker. Fruit tree shaker will shake the tree once a minute, and this is a coconut tree, so it's making me coconuts. A friend of mine set this up with a crate packer and was making coconut crates, which are actually quite valuable, but again, this one takes some time. But it's kind of set it and forget it, so you could just continue building about your island. Okay, you guys, thanks again for watching. Please hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas about using petroleum, some tips and tricks for our viewers, for those in the community who like to read the comments. Those are much appreciated. I like to read every single one of them, and I'll try your ideas out if I've got time. That's it for this video. Remember to have fun and keep it imaginary.